So a lot of you know that I actually like Eric July. I like a lot of his books. I own a lot of his books, and one of these days I got to get myself I don't know what it's called for comics where you get a plethora of books and you got to start putting your books in this thing to actually protect it and make sure they're good. But I have to get me one of those over at the Rippaverse, and shout out to him, man. I've learned a lot about business. As he always says, type business in the chat. Learned a lot about business from him, and I think that this is something that's worth going over because, man, Eric July really said it. And this video, or not video, this was released on March 15th, and I've just been kind of sitting on it for a minute because I've been working on Lumbento and everything else in the background. But I haven't read through this fully, and I wanted to kind of read through this fully with all of you and just kind of talk about it. What Eric July is talking about in this is 100% business. As you can see, this is him in his warehouse, repping his Alpha Core sweatshirt with a lot of orders behind him. And one day, it's going to be us. It's going to be us here at Lumbento. We're going to be doing a lot of orders. And I think he said something in here that that caught my eye, man. And I was like, hey, this is something I need to really do. I think, where is it at? Right here. This is the one thing that I was kind of skimming through and seeing. Run your own race. Okay, run your own race. And this is something that I really want to talk about just fully. So before I get started, welcome back. Marshulartz here, owner and operator of Lumbento LLC, my manga and light novel company station in Ohio. You can currently go read my manga Penguin Boy along with a few others over on the site on lumbento.net. Links are in the description below. Be sure to subscribe as it shows your ever-growing interest. Be sure to subscribe and like the video as it shows your ever-growing interest in the content and will allow others like you to see the videos for the future. Shout out to all 22 recent subscribers, man. Appreciate all of you being here. And yeah, you joined the right channel for drawing gameplay and more. Anyway, let's dive back into this. So Eric July, you can go follow him at Eric D July, and great guy who has his own opinions. While I don't agree with everything he says because I don't 100% agree with what anyone says, I do think he has a great head on his shoulders. He's definitely evolved, past what I've seen him as. When I first was introduced to Eric, I first found him back in 2019 when I was in Arizona. And I was getting back into manga and the game sphere once COVID had started hitting. And him talking about COVID and all this stuff really opened my eyes. Talking about the government and all that stuff really opened my eyes to a lot of things. And he had mentioned, I think back in 2020 or 2021, doing something called the Rippaverse. And man, it really blew up when he made his first $3 million off of one book, mind you. One book he made $3 million off of. And yes, half of that is to do from the fan base that he's built and cultivated over the years. But the other half is because Eric really speaks what he's doing into not just the practice, but into life itself. Anyway, let's get into this. Enough about me talking about, Eric and stuff like that. In that field. Eric says, a lot of creators follow me and are inspired by what we've built with the Rippaverse, so it's important to address something that many in the creative industry struggle with, business, which is very true. Because we're transparent with our numbers, people will always analyze them, often without context. That's fine, but Rippaverse isn't playing the same game as your typical crowdfunder. We don't crowdfund or mainstream publisher. 90% plus of our sales are direct to reader, and we distribute ourselves. This is something that we are looking at doing a little bit more just because, to me, with the current Kickstarter, which if you've seen my recent videos, I haven't really pushed it as much because there's only like 8 days left where our goal was 3,500 and we're not going to hit that. Realistically, I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, we're not going to hit that and that's okay. But realistically, we are looking to sell directly to our reader, and I think that that's something that I want to do outside of anything else. But with selling to your reader comes so many things. You have to differentiate for taxes, for individual sales, for how much you're making, and do all that before the end of the year comes up. There's so many things that go into that. But I'm willing to invest the time learning about that business side of it. So I 100% agree that 90% of his sales are direct to reader, and they do distribute themselves. Distributing is another thing that we're looking at doing ourselves, even though I know that that's going to be a massive thing to take on. He says, we release often, roughly 20 books published in just over 2 years. Buyers' habits shift when readers have variety and reliable delivery. We don't do evergreen crowdfunding. Unlike campaigns that stay open for years on sites like Indiegogo, our longest collection window has been around 75 days. Once it closes, the counter stops. and those sales are no longer visible. Post collection sales are the backbone of the company. Since February 28th, after the Great War of Separation number 1 collection closed, we've sold 847 more copies of that book because we release frequently and across different titles. Excuse me. Sales don't end when the collection closes, which is really what I'm always going on about, which is why even when we did run the Kickstarter, the plan for Luminto was always to put the books over on the website to say, hey, you guys can still purchase just the books if you want, or these individual items if you're looking to do so, because the sales don't have to stop there. A lot of people have the sales stop there because, they're working a 9 to 5. They don't have the infrastructure to actually be able to set that up. We are building the infrastructure at Luminto. We just haven't had I haven't had the time, for me personally, and I haven't made the time. That's the most important thing. I haven't made the time to actually sit down and go over and redefine my infrastructure of how we're going to be doing this. But that's going to change. Sales numbers aren't irrelevant, but misreading them can make them so. Sales numbers aren't irrelevant, but misreading them can make them so. Even within the same company, direct comparisons don't always make sense. Not every collection has the same number of new items. Not every collection has the same price points. Not every collection is open for the same length of time or released under the same market conditions. And this is something I'm not just teaching myself, but I'm also teaching the members of my team, is that we all have different stories. I said this in a previous video, but a lot of people like to create stories that are for adults because they outgrow shonen. So they'll outgrow the tropes of shonen. They'll outgrow the small antics of character tropes, character cliches, stuff like that. And they'll say, oh, I want to make something more adult. I want to make something more for this crowd. And I think that's good and all, but you have to look at who you're actually doing it for. Who's your demographic? Are you doing a shonen? Are you doing a seinen? Are you just doing a Western comic? Are you doing a webtoon? What does that demographic look like, and what do they currently like? Can you do something that falls in line with what they like, or are you going to be doing something that's completely different, or kind of a mishmash of the two? So not every collection or not everything or book is going to be the same, and that's something I'm teaching my guys over at Luminto, because we're all creating different stories. I'm creating your typical shonen. Some people are creating a seinen. Some people are creating a horror occult manga. And that just goes to show that we have to really account for who our demographic and who our audience is. So, yeah, like he said, I'm going to read this once again. Not every collection has the same number of items, new items. Not every collection has the same price points. Not every collection is open for the same length of time or released under the same market conditions. And that's very true. For example, he breaks it down. Yaira's number 1 base book with what was $25 with a nearly $80-day campaign, and no other books launched in that window. Yaira 2 was $13 with a 45-day collection, but unlike number 1, it released during our ramp up along several other projects. Even if both sold the same number of copies, which rarely happens with number 1s and number 2's total sales would naturally be lower. The Horseman, Welcome to Flora Spark, ran for 70 days at about $25 base price. The Great War of Separation, number 1, ran for 30 days at a $14 base price with no CGC signed signature copies, signatures series options, which drives up book sales. The numbers were never going to be identical in either books sold or revenue generated. Comparison without context is a shortcut to confusion. Worse, it can be a shortcut to a failed business. If you're a creator looking to build something sustainable, don't fall into the trap of surface level analysts. And this is why I'm always trying to look at and study what the Rippaverse is doing. Shout out Caro, because she's always usually like posting like different things about like what they're doing at the Rippaverse, and nothing detailed, but it's still that information that you're just like, this is really insightful. This is really helpful for me understanding for my own business and just understanding what I'm investing into when it comes to the Rippaverse. I mean, a lot of people who see this transparency that Eric and his team gives, they look at that and they go, this is someone I can get behind because they're always going to do right by me. Even if an order gets messed up and it's my fault or it's their fault, they're going to at least tell me how I can take care of it. They're not just going to be like, well, fuck them, like it's their fault. No, they're gonna at least look at that and say, hey, this is how you should go about it. If you've messed up your order, you can order another one. You can do this and this. We could do this. But 9 times out of 10, yeah, they're gonna take care of you. So if you're a creator looking to build something sustainable, don't fall into the trap of surface level analysis. Just because you exist in the same industry does not mean you're playing the same game. Many creatives fail in business because they don't conceptualize everything that goes into it. And that is where I was falling into it. When I first started Luminto, I wasn't conceptualizing the whole thing. I was conceptualizing a narrow vision of what I wanted to happen and what I wanted to be. And what I want doesn't matter to ultimately what the market actually needs. So If you want to last in this industry, you have to understand the full picture. Most importantly, run your own race. The Western independence, creative, and entertainment industries need to prioritize business just as much as they do their art. Run your own race is something that stuck out to me because there's a lot of people around me. You have, On So Go, you have Saturday M, you have Shrine Comics, you have us, Lumento, and you have a plethora of other people who are running at their own race and not really minding the business of other people. And that's something that I've always strived to do. Don't get me wrong, there's definitely people who come to me and they say, hey, look at this company, look at this company. And I go, that's cool. I see what they're doing, but it's not of any interest to me really because we're running something entirely different here. We're running a manga company where our stories read right to left. There's other companies around us who are doing both. There's other companies who are doing just left to right. And those companies are going to accept a lot more people. And don't get me wrong, we're not accepting a lot of people. We're accepting a handful because really I feel like if we have too many people, we can't really focus in and narrow in on what it means to create something. And to me, what I'm looking to do is actually create a streamlined team of people who actually want to create something natural. That's why we're going to be doing, all of our Talkabon, our graphic novels, when people actually complete them. That's why we're doing all this stuff with one-shots and stuff like that. But anyway, that's going to do it for that. I mean, did you guys learn something? Did you guys understand what Eric was trying to say? If you didn't, type Bidness below, as he normally says. Type Bidness, and be sure to go check out the Riververse, man. They have some amazing, great stories. A lot of talented artists over there. And if you want to learn a thing or two, head over to Eric's business channel. I can't remember what it's called. I'm actually subscribed to it. Let me actually see. It's here it is right here. Creator Business, and he has videos right here. He only has a couple videos, but still, I enjoy them. And I've watched. The only one I haven't watched was the intro video, but I watched all of them, and they're pretty good. So be sure to go check that out. Be sure to give Riververse a look through, man. Buy some of the comics because they are truly amazing. And yeah, be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video. It shows your ever-growing interest in content like this, and actually shares it to other people. And yeah, shout out to the recent subscribers on the video once again. Yeah, we are going to be streaming, but if I do a video like this and I release it on the day, trust me, we're probably not going to be streaming that day as well, but we could be. Who knows? Regardless, though, #PenguinNation, we are out.